He found a helpless alien child in the trash, but what happened when her mother returned? Jasper Gribble had found many things in the scrap town dump over the years. A vending machine that only dispensed insults in French, a robotic leg that refused to stop running even when unplugged, and once a full tuxedo-clad skeleton holding a half-eaten space burrito. But this was new. It started like most of Jasper's adventures did, with poor life choices and a hangover that felt like it had its own gravitational field. He was knee-deep in a collapsed pile of what looked like obsolete karaoke drones, hunting for copper wire and dignity, when the pile shifted with a metallic groan that sounded suspiciously like someone whispering regret. Jasper paused, blinked the grease out of his eyes, and listened. There it was again, a sound, not the usual hiss of steam leaks or the mournful whir of a dying cleaning bot trying to recite Shakespeare. This sound was wet, small, alive. He yanked a broken karaoke unit off the pile and a strange glow spilled out. Something moved. Jasper instinctively recoiled because nothing good ever glows in Scrap Town. That was rule number 3. Rule number 1 was don't lick anything, and rule number 2 had been scratched out by a raccoon with a vendetta. Inside a dented escape pod roughly the size of a fridge, he saw her. A child, pale lavender skin, big eyes like twin galaxies filled with trust issues, and ears, long, curved, elegant ears that practically screamed, "I'm not from around here, please don't microwave me." Her clothes were some kind of emergency foil blanket, or maybe interstellar fashion had taken a weird turn. She was sucking her thumb, which was also faintly glowing, and looking at him like she was evaluating whether he was a predator, a snack, or a disappointment. Said Jasper, which he felt was an accurate summary of the situation. The kid sneezed. The sneeze lit up the entire junkyard like someone had dropkicked a disco ball into a fusion core. Jasper was thrown backwards into a pile of angry blender units, all of which activated and tried to puree his dignity. When he sat up coughing, the kid was crying, not wailing, not shrieking, just a soft hiccuping sob that sounded like a sad modem dying in a foggy forest. Jasper wiped a streak of something oily off his cheek and stared at her. Every inch of his brain screamed, leave it, this is how horror movies start. But something deeper, some half-broken part of him that still believed in lost causes, shoved him forward. "All right, Sparkle Sneeze," he muttered, wrapping the emergency blanket tighter around her. "Let's get you out of here before someone decides you're worth a few credits on the black market." The child stared at him with unblinking alien eyes. "Don't look at me like that. I'm not a hero. I once sold my own boots for potato chips." Jasper carried her out of the heap, passing a group of scavengers who gave him the usual mix of judgment and mild admiration. One guy nodded as if to say, "Hey, found a good piece of tech, huh?" Jasper nodded back. "Yeah, the rarest tech of all, a child, possibly radioactive." Back at his place, also known as the Shack, formerly the lickety-split Astro Sandwich Experience, Jasper kicked open the door with a flourish usually reserved for stage magicians or very confident burglars. Kevin the rodent, a sentient ball of fur with teeth like industrial scissors, hissed from the countertop. "She's not food, Kev," Jasper grunted, laying the girl on the fold-out couch incinerator. "Don't even think about it." The girl blinked slowly. She looked exhausted, confused, and most importantly, still glowing faintly like a nightlight that might vaporize your eyebrows. Jasper pulled the blanket tighter, handed her a broken action figure, and sat down on a crate that used to contain military-grade pudding. He stared at her. She stared back. Time passed. "You got a name?" he asked. She tilted her head, blinked again, then let out a soft click that might have been a word or just a random toddler noise from another planet. She picked up the action figure, Captain Smashtron, missing both arms and one eyebrow, and shoved it directly into her mouth. "Right," said Jasper. "You're a baby, an alien baby, a space baby. I'm talking to a space baby. This is my life now." Kevin attempted to climb the couch. The girl looked at him and hissed. Kevin fled. "Okay, now that I respect," Jasper nodded. "You stay, you win the couch." That night, Jasper didn't sleep much, not because he was worried. Well, maybe a little, but because the kid glowed in her sleep and kept levitating slightly off the couch whenever she snored. Also, once she accidentally fused the toaster to the wall with her mind. Jasper watched the sunrise with a sense of doom he hadn't felt since the vending machine uprising of 29. By morning, he'd named her Pip. No reason, just felt right. Pip, destroyer of couches. Pip, savior of junkyard dignity. Pip, who giggled when he made robot noises and cried when he stepped more than 2 feet away. He didn't know who she was or what she could do or why the dump had received a child in a space pod like an unwanted galactic Amazon delivery, but she was his now. Sort of, maybe. "Guess I'm a dad now," he mumbled, sipping rehydrated coffee made from questionable beans and a lot of hope. Pip burped. The lights exploded. Jasper sighed. This is fine, totally fine. The thing about raising an alien child in a metal box formerly known as a sandwich shop was that there were no parenting manuals. Jasper checked. The closest he got was a greasy pamphlet titled, "So You've Accidentally Adopted a Sentient Fungus," which was only helpful if Pip started reproducing via spores, which, considering the weird green stuff she coughed up on Tuesdays, wasn't off the table. It had been 3 weeks since Jasper brought Pip home from the dump. 3 weeks of trial, error, mostly error, and a fire that still smelled like roasted printer ink. Pip didn't talk, unless you counted the high-pitched chirps, whirs, and one memorable day when she hummed the entire theme song from Galactic Gladiators backwards. She did, however, develop a habit of floating in her sleep and rewiring anything plugged into an outlet. By week 2, the refrigerator became sentient and refused to open unless addressed as "your coldness." Jasper negotiated a truce with it using a sandwich and an apology note written in mayonnaise. Kevin the rodent with the soul of a tax auditor had taken to hiding in the ceiling vents and only emerging for cheese-flavored nutrient packs. Jasper didn't blame him. Pip had learned to point at things and cause them to either melt, explode, or produce classical music. The microwave now only cooked things in iambic pentameter. Jasper tried to establish a routine. He read her bedtime stories from a salvaged instruction manual for anti-gravity toilets. He attempted to bathe her using a bucket, a sponge, and an ancient AI shower head named Lorna who had severe trust issues and screamed during rinse cycles. He fed her whatever she didn't vaporize. She liked old batteries, apparently hated soup. "Soup is betrayal," Jasper told her one night as she stared at a bowl of synth noodle stew like it had personally insulted her grandmother. She responded by lifting the bowl with her mind and dumping it on his head. She clapped. He bowed. They both laughed. Word got out, of course it did. Nothing in Scraptown stayed secret unless it was buried under 3 tons of printer ink and shame. The neighbors started whispering. Some said Jasper had found a rare prototype AI child worth a fortune on the tech black market. Others claimed she was a government experiment escaped from Lunar Base 8. One guy said she was an interdimensional space goat disguised as a girl, which said more about his diet than Pip. Jasper ignored them mostly, except when scavenger gangs started hovering too close to the shack. He rigged an alarm system using 2 waffle irons and an angry tea kettle. He welded metal plates over the windows and spray-painted absolutely nothing of value here except a very ordinary toaster on the side of the building. Pip began copying him, not just the words but the expressions. The sarcastic eyebrow lift, the sigh of existential dread before opening a can of recycled chili. She even started tinkering with his old tools, though she tended to make things worse or better, depending on how you felt about self-aware screwdrivers that whispered encouragement during repairs. One day Jasper returned from a run to the barter pit, traded half a radio and a drawing of a cat for some protein cubes, and found Pip in the middle of what could generously be called a science experiment. The toaster was levitating, the fridge was speaking fluent Italian, and the TV was showing a slideshow of images from Jasper's own dreams. Very personal dreams. Dreams involving his ex, a sentient lava lamp, and something called the Great Pickle War. "Pip," he yelled, "we talked about reality manipulation indoors." She giggled, floating upside down. That night, as they sat on the roof eating cubes and watching the smog-glow stars, Jasper asked the question that had been gnawing at the back of his skull since day one. "Where are you from, kiddo?" She looked at him, eyes serious, then she burped and pointed upward. Not just up, but up, the kind of up that made your stomach flip and your brain file a restraining order. He nodded slowly, right, so space, that narrows it down. She held out her hand, palm glowing faintly. In it she projected a tiny hologram, a swirling planet of teal and gold with rings that looked like shattered glass around it. A symbol, 2 triangles inverted and intersecting, pulsed like a heartbeat. Jasper had never seen it before, but it felt familiar, wrongly familiar, like a half-remembered nightmare or a childhood jingle rewritten in minor chords. Pip closed her fist. The image vanished. "Okay," he whispered, "you're not just a lost kid, you're someone important." The next morning the door exploded. Not knocked, not opened, exploded. Smoke filled the shack as a trio of chrome-plated bounty droids rolled in, guns aimed, voices monotone. By order of the Council of Intergalactic Domestic Matters, the illegal possession of bioyal offspring is a Class 4 offense. Jasper dropped his coffee. Illegal what now? Pip screamed, not loudly, not humanly, the kind of scream that folded the air and made 2 of the droids backpedal and try to reassess their life choices. Jasper grabbed her, ducked behind the counter, and yanked open the floor hatch he'd only ever used to hide expired pickles. They dove in. He slammed the hatch shut. The shack above shook with weapons fire. The fridge shouted Italian vengeance and Kevin dropped from the ceiling and latched onto one of the droid's faces like a furry grenade. Jasper and Pip lay in the crawl space, breathing hard. "Okay," he whispered, "we need a plan. A really good not-going-to-die plan." Pip touched his arm, glowing again, eyes wide, afraid, and something else. Hope. Jasper had a rule. When Chrome murderbots kicked down your door shouting about intergalactic domestic matters, it was probably time to leave town. Preferably fast. Preferably with all limbs intact. Unfortunately, escape wasn't easy when your adopted alien toddler glowed like a cosmic firefly and had the emotional control of a blender in a thunderstorm. He and Pip had been hiding in the tunnel beneath the shack for what felt like an eternity but was probably just 38 minutes, judging by how long his bladder had been yelling at him. The walls dripped condensation and regret. Overhead, the muffled sound of droids being violently Italianized by the sentient fridge had faded, replaced by heavy stomps and something that sounded suspiciously like Kevin swearing in rodent Morse code. "All right, Pip," Jasper whispered, cradling the small squirming ball of panic under one arm. "Time for Plan C." Pip blinked. "I skipped Plan B," he added. "It involved disguises and pretending to be space lawyers. We both know I can't pull off a tie." He pulled open the rusted maintenance hatch at the end of the tunnel and emerged into the old subway lines beneath Scrap Town, long abandoned, haunted by graffiti artists and vending machine cults. The lights flickered like they were trying to signal an SOS to the gods of bad infrastructure. They hurried past a mural of a spaceman kissing a sandwich, and Jasper tapped on a metal door that looked like it had been welded shut by someone with abandonment issues. Come on," he muttered. The door creaked open with a wheeze, revealing a small woman with a monocle, 8 tattoos of Angry Birds, not the game, actual Angry Birds, and a cigarette that smelled like burned encyclopedias. "Jasper," she said, voice flat and unimpressed. "You look like a space crime, and you brought a child, that's new." "Hi, Wanda," Jasper said, panting. "Can we hide here, maybe for a week, month, until the bounty droids forget how to spell?" Wanda looked down at Pip, who gave her the wide-eyed look of a girl who could, and possibly would explode a planet if denied a nap. "Does she eat small animals?" Wanda asked. "Only by accident," Jasper said. "She's very polite about it." They were let in. Wanda's place was a maze of scrap data cores and suspiciously active lava lamps. She was one of the few people in town who still ran OldNet, an ancient tangle of forgotten files, weird conspiracy videos, and at least 17 recipes for meat that glowed in the dark. She was paranoid, brilliant, and only mildly unhinged, which made her the most stable person Jasper knew. They sat in her back room while Pip chewed on a USB stick, and Jasper explained everything. "Well," Wanda said once she'd stopped laughing, "you really stepped in it this time. Royalty, droids, possible extra-dimensional intergalactic incident." "Do you have a better plan?" Jasper asked. "I always have a plan," she said. "You just never like it." She leaned over her terminal and began typing with the kind of intensity normally reserved for nuclear launches or extremely hostile online debates. Images flickered across the screen. Maps, symbols, a blurry photo of Pip sneezing on a trash compactor and turning it into modern art. "So here's the scoop," Wanda said. "That symbol Pip showed you, the triangles, that's the royal sigil of the Thoraxi Dominion. They're not just aliens, they're the aliens. As in, the ones who think most species are adorable little bugs, except slightly less charming." Cool," Jasper said, massaging his temples. "So I adopted the space version of a princess." "Technically, you kidnapped her." "I rescued her," Jasper corrected. "Tell that to the bounty droids programmed to disintegrate your spleen and politely return her with a juice box," she replied. "According to this, her mother is High Matron Zeltratha, Warden of the Crystal Moons, Slayer of the 16-tentacle Doom Goose, and Empress of a star sector roughly the size of your ego." Jasper paused, so she's influential. "She has a warship named after her laugh." "Oh no," Pip giggled. "Oh no," Jasper said again. Wanda kept typing. "They must have sent her here for protection. Hidden pod, dump site, plausible deniability, but someone else figured it out. That's why the droids are here. And if they know, Zeltratha isn't far behind." As if on cue, the terminal screen blinked. A message in bold Thoraxi script appeared, accompanied by a sound that made Jasper's teeth itch. Wanda translated aloud. "Surrender the child and the man who dared to interfere or suffer orbital flattening." "I don't like how casual that threat was," Jasper muttered. Wait for it. The screen flickered again. An image of a ship appeared, sleek, monstrous, with tendrils of light curling from its engines like cosmic vines. Pip pointed at it and said, "Mama." Jasper felt his stomach do an interpretive dance of pure dread. "You have 12 hours, Wanda said, scrolling through the fine print. Then the ship arrives with her on it." He looked at Pip, who was currently trying to insert a coin into Kevin's fur. "Well," Jasper said, "guess we need to prepare." "You want my help?" Wanda asked, raising an eyebrow. "I want your gear, your bunker, and your least terrible plans." She puffed her cigarette. "That costs extra." Jasper rummaged in his coat and pulled out a half-melted ray gun, 3 glow sticks, and a rare collectible card of Supreme Chancellor Bloop from Squid Wars, The Reckoning. Wanda took the card. Deal. They spent the next 10 hours turning Wanda's hideout into a fortress. Pip helped by occasionally phasing through walls and disassembling droid parts with her mind. Kevin took watch from the air vent with a sharpened spoon. Jasper reinforced the doors with everything that wasn't already nailed down. As the 12th hour approached, the sky above Scraptown darkened, stars swallowed by the shape of a warship the size of a continent. Jasper stood at the front door, Pip clinging to his leg. He exhaled. "All right, Madame Doomgoose, let's have a chat." The warship didn't land so much as loom. It hovered above Scrap Town like a floating threat made of thunderclouds, judgment, and a truly unnecessary number of glowing red vents. Even from the safety of Wanda's bunker, you could feel it, like someone had wrapped the atmosphere in tin foil and anxiety. Scrap Town collectively peed itself a little and decided this was a good time to suddenly remember it had other planets to visit. Jasper stood on the roof of the bunker in his second-best coat, the one that only smelled slightly like burnt noodles, and stared up at the sky with a heroic squint he'd been practicing in case things went epic. Pip sat beside him eating popcorn she had somehow manifested from the air, which was either a superpower or an allergic reaction to space tension. "So," Jasper said, "anyone got ideas for talking down a cosmic murder empress with a warship complex and probable heat vision?" Kevin the Rat, who'd been promoted to General of Morale, squeaked once and held up a piece of string shaped vaguely like a peace sign. Wanda, peering through binoculars from below, muttered, "We could try diplomacy, but I doubt she's in the mood for hugs and muffins." A voice boomed from the ship above, not through speakers but straight into their heads, which was both efficient and aggressively rude. "You have sheltered the daughter of Zeltratha. Return her immediately or be reconfigured into modular furniture." Pip burped. The warship flickered. "Okay, that was weirdly threatening and also made me want to shop for ottomans," Jasper said, rubbing his temples. "Wanda, do you still have that voice modulator? I need to sound taller." Wanda handed him a device roughly the size of a grapefruit and exactly the shape of disappointment. Jasper strapped it on, cleared his throat, and yelled at the sky, "We respectfully decline your terrifying offer. Also, your interior lighting is a little much. Consider softer hues, maybe lavender." The silence that followed had weight. It was the kind of pause you got before an asteroid hit or a relative at dinner asked, "So when are you getting married?" And then she descended, not via beam or ramp or grand musical cue, but simply appeared standing on the roof like she'd always been there, tall, regal, and visibly annoyed. Zeltratha's long ears twitched in disapproval. Her eyes were like twin quasars trying very hard not to set the world on fire from sheer irritation. Her cape billowed dramatically despite the fact there was no wind. Pip blinked, dropped her popcorn, and ran to hers. "Mommy." Zeltratha knelt, scooping the child into her arms with a grace that could have melted icebergs and critics alike. Her expression softened a millimeter, which in royal alien terms meant she was basically weeping. "My starlight," she whispered, and Pip cooed. Jasper, torn between awe and sheer bladder panic, cleared his throat. "Hi, Jasper, local scrap dealer, accidental child rescuer, semi-retired hero. We met via scream threat earlier." Zeltratha turned to him slowly, the way a planet turns to crush a building. "You took my daughter," she said. "I found your daughter," Jasper said, "in a junk heap. Alone, wrapped in broken tech and interstellar sadness." "You kept her." "I fed her, bathed her, survived her spontaneous gravity surges. That counts for something." "She is thoraxy. She requires structured reconditioning, mental recalibration, and exposure to 17 hours of galactic etiquette protocols. She also requires snacks, cuddles, and someone to laugh when she turns a waffle iron into a jukebox. Just saying." Zeltratha raised an elegant brow. You believe you are fit to care for royal lineage. I believe I didn't die trying, Jasper said, which frankly puts me ahead of the curve. Pip giggled and floated slightly, caught between them like a tiny celestial referee. Wanda whispered from below, keep stalling, I'm working on something. Jasper nodded. So Empress Lady of Doom, Zeltratha, right? You're clearly powerful, regal, possibly allergic to smiling, but I've got to ask, who dumps their kid in a garbage planet? Zeltratha's face froze, her ears twitched, her voice dropped an octave and gained several dimensions. We were attacked, a coup, she was smuggled away. I chased her signal for months through dead systems and pirate space. I followed rumors to this sludge ball of a planet and then I saw her light. She's the only thing in this universe that makes sense. Pip hugged her tighter. Jasper swallowed the lump in his throat that might have been dignity. So you didn't dump her? Would you abandon your starlights? No, Jasper said, but I might have picked a safer babysitter. Zeltratha gave a small, reluctant nod. You protected her. I did badly, but with snacks. Silence stretched again. Pip broke it by hovering between them and shouting team hug. Zeltratha flinched. Jasper opened his arms. They both got awkwardly smooshed together by a giggling child with dangerous powers and a fondness for chaos. The hug was tense, then slightly less tense, then surprisingly warm. Kevin squeaked in approval. Then Wanda's voice crackled over the comms. You two might want to finish your bonding moment. The rest of the coup followers, they're here. And I think they brought a space dragon. Jasper looked up. 3 smaller ships, sleeker and meaner, descended through the clouds. Let me guess, he muttered, they're not here for tea. Zeltratha's eyes ignited. They are traitors, I will vaporize their lineage. Cool, Jasper said, but maybe after we hide behind something very thick. She nodded once, then let's save the galaxy, mom style. The first plasma blast hit Wanda's bunker so hard a stack of encyclopedias in the corner spontaneously caught fire and began screaming. Kevin dove into a drawer full of expired granola bars and emerged with war paint made of marshmallow goo and rage. Pip squealed with joy, spun in a circle, and shot an accidental EMP pulse that knocked out the lights, the internet, and briefly made Wanda's toaster achieve enlightenment. Jasper flung himself behind the reinforced fridge, clutching a blaster that probably hadn't been legal since the Galactic Cheese Accord of 2172. Zeltratha, in the center of the chaos, looked exactly like someone who had just been personally inconvenienced by betrayal and space missiles. Her eyes glowed like weaponized suns. Her ears flicked once, and with a casual gesture she raised a force field that shimmered violet across the roof. All right, Jasper panted. Let me just confirm, those ships are full of people who tried to overthrow you, failed, and now they're here because they think they can do better. Yes, she said, summoning a blade from raw starlight with a sound like reality flinching. And I'm helping fight them, he continued. With this blaster I stole from a guy named Flabs. Who? She asked. Exactly. A second barrage of plasma struck the shield. Pip responded by launching a stray bolt that turned one of the enemy ship's wings into confetti. A cheer went up from somewhere in the ventilation system, probably Kevin. Jasper looked at Pip. She's definitely yours. They moved fast. Jasper and Wanda coordinated the defense, pulling up every half-legal turret, repurposed coffee machine cannon, and angry kitchen appliance available. The bunker's AI, which had previously only been used for ordering snacks and arguing with the microwave, was suddenly engaged in full combat mode. It called itself Larry now and insisted on playing dramatic battle music over every loudspeaker. The traitor ships landed. Troops emerged, armored, armed, and absolutely full of poor life choices. Jasper squinted at one of them and recognized a face from a wanted poster. Admiral D, the only person to ever lose a chess match to a jellyfish and then marry it out of spite. Stand aside, D barked. We've come for the Empress. She's kind of busy being majestic, Jasper said. Come back after you rethink your choices and wash that outfit. We are here to claim the child. Pip raised one hand and sent Duroc flying into a wall like a disgruntled frisbee. Zeltratha grinned. Jasper stared. Was that approval? She's my daughter, she said, voice thick with pride and possibly vengeance, and you are, irritating but surprisingly effective. The battle exploded across Scrap Town. Turrets spat lasers, trash piles turned into mobile barricades. Kevin led a band of rogue rodents in a sneak attack on enemy boots. Jasper shot wildly and only hit 2 friends. Wanda hacked one of the ships, turned it into a dance floor, and forced the enemy to cha-cha uncontrollably for 10 minutes straight. At the climax, with the bunker half demolished, Pip floated into the air. Her eyes gleamed white, her fingers sparkled, and she let out a giggle so pure and terrifying that the air around her warped. Every combatant froze. She clapped. A wave of energy burst from her tiny hands, wiping the sky clean of ships, disarming every blaster, and turning one particularly aggressive enemy into a really nice houseplant. Silence fell. Pip landed softly, then hiccuped. Jasper blinked, looked at Zeltratha. That's new. She is evolving, Zeltratha said with a mixture of awe and maternal anxiety. Cool, quick question. Does evolving usually involve the power to end wars with a burp? Only in the gifted, she said. Wanda peeked over a broken console. You people need a babysitter and an exorcist. The defeated remnants of the coup forces were rounded up. The few survivors, now very polite, surrendered to Kevin. One of them gave him a medal. Another tried to join the rodent army. Zeltratha stood at the center of the wreckage, cloak barely ruffled, Pip on her hip, and regarded Jasper with that terrifying neutrality that meant something important was about to happen. You have my gratitude, she said. Jasper scratched the back of his head. You're welcome, even if I might have accidentally taught her to say but. She will be corrected. She'll also miss me. Pip nodded vigorously, Miss Jazzy. Zeltratha's mouth twitched. It was possibly a smile, though it might have been indigestion. You are not without flaws, she said. Oh yeah, Jasper agreed. There's a spreadsheet. But you protected her, raised her, endured her telekinetic tantrums. I owe you more than I expected to. Jasper looked down at Pip, who was now doodling planets in the dust with her mind. She changed me, he said. I thought I was just some guy with a knack for surviving bad decisions. Turns out I'm a better guy who still makes bad decisions, but now I'm willing to share snacks. Zeltratha offered him a small device. This is a locator. If ever you wish to see her again, press it. Jasper took it carefully. No self-destruct button. Only if you try to teach her sarcasm again. Too late. They both looked at Pip, who was now making two droids argue in Shakespearean insults. A few hours later, the warship rose back into the sky. Scraptown slowly returned to its regular chaos, now with slightly more craters and significantly less mystery royalty. Wanda surveyed the damage with mild disgust and deep pride. Kevin retired from active duty and opened a tiny cheese-themed bar. Jasper stood outside the bunker watching the stars. The sky was clear, his coat was torn, his wallet was still missing, but his heart, that annoying thing, was full. He smiled, then frowned, then smiled again because for the first time in a long while things made just enough sense. He pulled the locator from his pocket, didn't press it, not yet. He'd see her again, but for now he had work to do, possibly hero stuff, possibly just lunch. Either way, he wasn't alone anymore, and that made all the difference.